Ankit sir, please go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope we all are safe and healthy. ASSOCHAM, I would like to welcome you to this important webinar on conflict management. This webinar is designed with GST on account of different decisions of advanced ruling. With this, the attempt has been made to solutions to major conflicts. Now, before we start the webinar, I'll give you a very brief introduction of the two speakers that we have today. Shri Ashok Naval. He is a member of ASSOCHAM National Council on Energy, and he's also a fellow member of ICMA and founder of Bitfall India Services Private Limited. He is having an industry of 45 years in the field of indirect tax, foreign trade, etc. He has also been to the officials of the department. He's task force for drafting SEZ rules, revamping of EOU scheme, and regional advisory committee of excise. Speaker Mr. Manoj Dhethi. He is a fellow member of ICAI and associate ICMAI, All India Services Private Limited. He is having more than 23 years of experience in strategic planning and indirect taxes and foreign trade policy. According to the officials of Central Excise, recognized as one of the trainers for officers of Sales Tax Department during introduction of MVET in Maharashtra. Now, with this brief introduction, I would like to invite Shri Manoj. Then can you forward this conversation in the interest of friends? Here, I would also like to convey to all the participants, attendees, that they can write their questions at any time during the in the chat box, in the question box visible on their right side, and their questions will reach directly to the speakers. And these the presentations are done. What do you, Manoj sir? You can start.
Manoj sir, you are muted. Please unmute.
Sir, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, all participants. Let me first thank ASSOCHAM for giving us an opportunity to speak in webinar on this conflict management advanced ruling on GST journey so far and path ahead. Before we talk on the recent advanced rulings, divergent views and its impact, let us understand in brief the legal background of advanced ruling appeals, orders, and its applicability. So I will just initiate my presentation. Where is that presentation? Can you support? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can see your screen, sir.
This presentation. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It's visible. You can go ahead.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So we will first like to go through the objectives of this advanced ruling. Why the advanced ruling need is there? First of all, every business planning, it needs certainty. So naturally, by this advanced ruling, we can provide the certainty in the tax liabilities in relation to an activities. So what is important here is proposed to be undertaken and being undertaken. So if you see the earlier advance rulings in other indirect taxes, so it was restricted to proposed activities. But under GST, they have brought this certainty not only to the activities which are proposed to be undertaken, but also which are being undertaken. So this is very important. Second thing, naturally, if there is certainty, so multinationals, foreign companies, they will be eager to invest in India, and naturally they will also get that certainty in their transactions. So this will reduce the litigation as well as the expenses that we usually incur in litigation, because advance rulings, they are binding. It is very important that they are binding not only on the applicant but also on the government authorities in respect with that state and with respect to that applicant. So this really brings certainty and reduces the litigation. Plus it is not an expensive affair, because there are nominal fees for applying for advance ruling, and plus there is also transparency. The process is simple, and this brings transparency in this all procedure of advance rulings. Means advance ruling means, so if the decision is provided by authority, then there is an appellate authority and newly introduced National Appellate Authority. So decision is being provided to an applicant on matters or questions as defined. So going forward, we'll see what are those questions which are defined, and only to restrictive questions we can make an application. Plus it is in relation to supply of goods or services or both, and which is being undertaken or proposed to be undertaken by the applicant. So as I said, a decision is provided by the authority. It is for specific matters and questions. It is in relation to supply of goods or services, and it is being undertaken. So applicant who is undertaking any activity or proposed to carry out any activities, so that will fall under the advance ruling. Now applicant means any person. So there is no restriction for applying for this advance ruling. So any person, whether individual, HUF, LLP, companies, government, societies, so anyone can apply for this advance ruling. Registration is also not necessary. Registered, if you are registered, certainly okay, but even if you are not registered, it does not deny you in applying for advance ruling. But yes, PAN number is necessary unless you are a non-resident. So these are the questions on which we can apply for advance ruling. So classification of any goods or services. So as you know, this is very important, because if you don't classify your goods or services rightly, then naturally the whole further process of rate, taxability, everything will differ. Classification of any goods or services is important question that can be addressed under advance ruling. Then there is applicability of notification. So as you know, that notification, that lot of notifications, it brings there are rates that are defined, there are processes that are defined, there are conditions that are defined in that. So all that, so applicability of notification to avail any of the benefits Like even if suppose you are going for refund, then there is a process that is defined. So applicability of notification will decide your rate, will decide the applicability. So it is important to note about this notification. Then comes the determination of time and value. So if value is properly defined, naturally the tax is going to be properly calculated, and time is equally important, because if we want to discharge the liability, time is equally important, that what is the time when that applicability of tax is going to be there. Then comes the admissibility of ITC or tax paid or deemed to have been paid. So here the applicant who is availing the services, who is availing the input tax credit, can apply for this advance ruling, and not the person who is supplying the services or supplying the goods. He cannot go for this admissibility of ITC. It is for the recipient who can apply for this advance ruling. Then determination of the liability to pay tax on any goods. Applicant is required to be registered or not registered. That is also questioned. Whether any particular thing done by the applicant for supply of goods or services. So whether that activity will be defined as supply or with goods, supply of services, or both. So all these are the questions which will be addressed through advance ruling and bring certainty. Now, as I said, that advance ruling passed shall be binding only on the applicant and the jurisdictional tax authority of such applicant. This clearly states that an advance ruling shall not be applicable to singular taxable person. So this is not applicable to the person who is not an applicant, but yes, certainly he can take it as a reference only. Authority for advance ruling. So this advance ruling authority, it is located in each state and union territory. Every state will have its own. Every state will have its own state. Every state will have its own authority for advance ruling. Then it consists of one member among the officers of central tax to be appointed by the central government, one member from the state tax. Government shall appoint officers not below the rank of joint commissioners, and if there is any difference of opinion among the members, then it will have to be referred to the appellate authority who will hear them, and then the final decision can be given, will be given by the appellate authority, which will be binding on the authority for advance ruling. Again, this appellate authority, it is again constituted in each state. Then it will entertain the appeals only and any advance ruling. So whatever orders have been issued by the advance ruling authority, only that will be entertained in this appellate authority. Then this also consists of members representing of central and the state GST, Chief Commissioner of Central Tax as designated by the commissioner by the central, and Commissioner of State Tax shall constitute the appellate authority. An appellate authority can decide any issue. So one second. Just one second. Just take this down. So there is no further appeal. So once the appellate authorities gives the decision, gives the order, there is no further yes. So there is no further appeal against the decision of appellate authority for advance rulings. It shall be binding on the applicant as well as the jurisdictional tax authorities, as already mentioned. However, writ petition may be filed before Honorable High Court or Supreme Court. So this is the only thing what we can do if the order is not in our favor, we can still go for writ petition. Then rectification. So the authority may amend any order passed by it. So whether it is advance ruling authority or whether it is appellate authority, they have got the right to rectification any error which is apparent on the face of the record. Now, if such error is noticed by the authority on its own, or it is brought to the notice by the concerned officer or the jurisdictional officer or the applicant, so even if it is brought by these people, by these officers or the applicant, then there can be then this order can be rectified. But the period for that is 6 months. So within that 6 months, the order can be rectified. Now, no rectification can take place without the appellant being heard if there is enhancement in the tax liability or there is reduction in the amount of admissible ITC. So everywhere you will find that whenever the order has to be passed or whenever any amendment has to be done, then natural justice will always prevail and the applicant will always get an opportunity to be heard. Now, application that way comparatively, yes, initial application for advance ruling, that is ARA 01. Fee is very nominal comparatively, 5,000 CGST, 5,000 HGST. Now, in this process, first thing is application. Second is the application will be forwarded to the concerned officer of that respective state. If needed, then they can call for some documents, and after going through that, they can either admit the application or reject the application. If the application is admitted, then the order will have to be issued within 90 days of the date of application. But again, here it will the applicant and the concerned officers will be heard before any order is passed. Same way, if the rejection of the application is to be done, again the applicant will have to be called for before any rejection takes place. And even if suppose the question raised is pending or already decided at the adjudication level, then also the authority will reject the application. Again, the same way, if it is pending or decided at the appellate level, again the application can be rejected. If there is difference of opinion arising within the members of authority, so if there is no common consensus, then naturally the matter has to be raised to the appellate authority. Again, on the procedure when it comes to appellate authority, instead of fees 5,000, now we'll have to deposit fees 10,000 with CGST and SGST. The department, but if the department files the appeal, naturally there is going to be no fee. Appellate authority shall confirm or modify the order. So, since the order has already been passed by the advance ruling authority, so either they can modify the order or they can confirm the order. The period is 90 days. But even for submission of appeal, if suppose there are genuine reasons, then naturally they can get a further extension of 30 days for applying to the appellate authority. If there is difference of opinion between the members of appellate authority, then the advance ruling cannot be given. So the process will stop there. There will be no advance ruling order since there is difference of opinion. Validity of advance ruling, naturally, as long as the law, the facts or the circumstances supporting the original advance ruling has not been changed, it will still be valid. The moment there is any change, yes, it will not be valid. Advance ruling can be nullified, yes, if suppose it has been brought to notice that the order has been obtained either by fraud or suppression of material facts or misrepresentation of facts, then that order will be held to be ab initio void. And in such cases, all the provisions of GST shall apply as if no ruling has been made, and period from the date of advance ruling till date of nullification shall be excluded from the purpose of limitation. So show cause notice can be issued within 3 or 5 years depending upon it, and that period, that interim period, will not be considered. So this has been recently introduced, National Appellate Authority. So if there are difference of opinion in orders between two states, so naturally then it can be referred to the National Appellate Authority, and this consists of officer authorized by the commissioner and applicant being a distinct person. This is important. Plus this is again a composition, the president, technical member. So president, so they have defined Supreme Court judge can be there, Chief Justice of High Court, or it can be a judge of High Court, or a technical member is there from center and technical member from state. So thank you very much. And now I hand over to Mr. Ashok Nawal for taking it forward on conflicting advance rulings and its impact on the industry. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you, Manoj. Very indeed a nice explanation which you have given. The object of making an advance ruling and that to appellate was one of the best, but whether, and that was the reason when we say whether this advance ruling provision or appellate provision in advance ruling, whether it is a boon or bane, now the time has come to discuss whether it is a boon or bane. Object of advance ruling, as explained by Manoj, to reduce the litigation conflict, and it is a better planning for starting the business, and that is the reason it has been made to entitle that advance ruling can be taken by any person. And considering the past experience in earlier taxes, custom, income tax provisions, provision of appellate authority was first time made in the GST. But whether this appellate authority provisions also is going to help is one of the important part, and it has been further created more confusion rather than clarity. You will see that why I'm saying this. When intention is good, if implementation is not good, mindset is not changed, perhaps it is converted to the bane. So boon is converted to the bane because of the mindset of the revenue officer which has not been changed. Why I'm saying this, you will understand. As much as 903 advance ruling, number of applications have been made. The time taken for advance ruling, 2017 applications are still pending in Gujarat. There are certain, in some states, Karnataka is higher, Maharashtra is lesser, Rajasthan is higher. But as compared to other states, hardly any decisions are taking. So whether that advance ruling is going to help or not, I don't know. So 903 advance ruling decisions were taken. Out of that, 108 has gone to the appellate authority. I just seen the statistic. Why I'm saying the mindset of the revenue officers until it changed. Because why I'm saying revenue officers? Because in appellate authority, there is no judicious member. One officer from the state tax and one officer from the central tax. That is what is the combination of advance ruling authority, and that is the reason 90% of those cases or which questions were raised were for the revenue. 5% were withdrawn, or it was said not covered under the scope. I'll come on that point. So whether this advance ruling as such whole exercise has helped or not, that is the question which we need to really answer to ourselves. And that is the reason we have seen the conflict management. Because what happens, everybody says that is, let us be a safer side, let us not have the litigations, we are in the business of doing the business. But I'm taking some of the major thing, what is going to happen, that I will tell you. The decisions of advanced ruling authorities, unfortunately, has been taken the base in the GST Council meeting. If you see the minutes of meeting of the Pitman committees or minutes of meeting of the GST Council, I have seen number of references of different advanced ruling authorities has been taken. Now, if this practice continues, the field officers will take the basis of that advanced ruling authorities and will issue the show cause notices, and more litigations will come rather than clarity. There will be more of a confusion and more of the litigation. I take very alarming subjects, which is all industries are getting affected with conflicting decisions of the advanced ruling, like a slum sale, installation of solar system, IAM, place of supply. These are the only prominent. There are number of issues where the issues were taken to the advanced ruling authorities and there are conflicting decisions. Because of the paucity of the time in half an hour, we cannot explain that. But which industry is immediately going to heading for that, I'm going to discuss in further few minutes.
Naval sir,
Let's
sorry
take
to
an
bother you.
example of a slum sale. The issue is schedule to section 7 very clearly says, if it is a going concern and business transfer is taking place, then that transfer will not be considered as a goods or services. It's very clearly stated in the rules. But in Uttarakhand, very rightly given the decision in Uttarakhand advanced ruling. But in the MERS, that is the Maharashtra Advanced Ruling Authority, has given exactly opposite. It says it is taxable. Now what will happen? Any slum sale happening in Maharashtra, those show cause notices will be given to the businesses. And as such, whenever the business transfer is happening by way of a merger, transfers, amalgamation, demergers, there is absolutely no issues and it will not be considered as a goods or services. Same take a case of installation of solar system. Why it is important solar system? If solar plant I have to install, solar plant if you have to install, you have to have the solar panels, solar that plant and machinery, and it has to be erected over the land. So whether it is a construction activity is also there, and engineering activity turnkey project is also there. And there is a two different tax rates. Solar power generating system is taxable at the rate of 5%. But if it is considered that it is the construction service, then it will be 18%. So question was asked whether this power projects, setting up the power project will attract 5% being a composite supply, or what it will cost, charge. This was the question which was raised. And Maharashtra authority said, unfortunately, it is not the composite supply, but it is the works contract service, and 18% GST will be applicable. Now, this is the something question and which was answered was really amusing. So, whole object that we call operation successful and patient died. So, this is what happens. But fortunately, in Karnataka Advanced Ruling Authority, in the case of solar is non-conventional, they have come one step ahead. They said the plant and machinery, it is not it is the composite supply. Even though it is a composite supply, you have to segregate the value for the construction separately and power, that is the plant and machinery separately, and on that power generating system you will charge 5%, and on services you will charge 18%. But at least there was some base. Unfortunately, same Karnataka Advanced Ruling Authority again given the different judgment. It says it is not the composite supply, but value has to be segregated. So I don't know whether these advanced ruling authorities are getting confused, or there is no clarity in their mind, or understanding of law is itself is a question mark. Take another case of IIM, which is a fit case, how the confusion in advanced ruling authority has been created, different advanced ruling authorities. Karnataka, Kolkata is very clearly says that IIM, whatever the courses they are doing it, all the courses with a degree diploma is exempted. This was appealed, and in appeal it says avail the exemption for a period 31/18 to 31st December only for the educational institute, and that is the main course of IIM, but diploma courses will not be there, and from 1/1/19 they can avail the exemption. And exactly Bangalore IIM has given, the Bangalore Advanced Ruling Authority has given the opposite judgment. The decision of West Bengal Authority was absolutely right when exemption under serial number 67 is provided. General exemption of 66A cannot be denied. And ultimately, CBIC has accepted this principle, issued the circular. So what is happening? Different advanced ruling authorities give the different judgment. It goes in the appellate authorities, and again after that, CBIC has to issue the circular. If at all CBIC has to issue the circular, let us have the only one forum of CBIC circular or a GST council, and there is no need of an advanced ruling authority if all those things are going to happen. This is again the typical example of a place of supply. Manoj has explained that what are the things it comes under the scope. It comes under the scope value of time and time of supply and value of supply. But next line, if you go, it says determination of tax liability. It is covered. So at least there are 20 advanced ruling authorities, 20 judgments are there, which says place of supply is not covered under the scope and no advanced ruling can be given for that. Whereas Kerala High Court has given that when determination of liability to pay the tax is covered under the section 97(2), the place of supply will consider whether the IGST has to be paid, or CGST has to be paid, or CGST and SGST has to be paid. So these are the conflicts which has been always there, and rather than getting clarity, we are going from pillar to post. Ocean freight, whole of the industry is suffering with the question of ocean freight. Even in the service tax era, it was the issue whether ocean freight, when I am importing the goods and I am paying the custom duty, whether reverse charge I am supposed to pay. Number of show cause notices where there are notification, and specific notification has been issued for the including ocean freight on the reverse charge basis. Now whole question is, MK Agrotech Karnataka Advanced Ruling Authority says yes, you have to pay under the reverse charge, whereas the landmark judgment of the Gujarat High Court very clearly let down in the case of Mohit Mineral states very clearly that this notification itself is unconstitutional. Entry number 10 of the notification making it the reverse charge when I am paying the custom duty at the time of importation. So I have imported the goods and I'm paid the duty on that, and thereafter I have not availed any services. So why I should pay the reverse charge? So rightly Gujarat High Court taken on that stand. Now this is lying in the Supreme Court. Now the question comes is what industry should do, whether they should pay or not. As such, if you want to avoid the litigation and you are only you are supplying the taxable goods, not exempted goods, then definitely you should definitely pay and pay the tax and take the ITC. Refund mechanism is also there in case of accumulated credit. But if you have the common, exempted also is there and taxable is also there and reversal will be more, then the question comes is you have to really see the impact and take the issue whether it has to be litigated, whether to be paid or not. It will depend on case to case. But really it is wrong notification. Fortunately, you might have seen in the director's remuneration. In the case of director's remuneration, lot of cases were there where it was the issue was settled. When employer and employee providing the services to the employer is out of the scope of services or goods out of the service, out of the scope of GST, it is not the supply. The Claycraft India Private Limited, Karnataka Advance Authority has given the absolutely wrong judgment. Even there, they were getting the Form 16, TDS was getting deducted, PF was also deducting. Directors were appointed in terms of Companies Act. In spite of that, they said that is reverse charge, the tax is liable. You have to pay that reverse charge tax.
Mr. Naval is, I think, experiencing some internet stability issue. We'll have to wait for a couple of minutes. He's joining back.
So meanwhile, can we take the questions till the time he joins?
He's joining in a minute. There was power failure at his end. He's joining in. Just in a minute he will join. And for Q&A, you have to give me organizer right so that I can go through Q&A.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
In between. Uh,
Yeah.
Naval sir, we can hear you now. You are on the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah. So in
The presentation भी पूरी
Hello?
screen पे कर दीजिए. So please
Yeah, so
put your presentation on full screen.
the director's
Yeah, we'll do it.
remuneration, fortunately now, whole issue was settled. CBIC understood that there are different judgments which are coming from the advance ruling, and trade is going to face the difficulty. Yesterday, they have issued the circular on the director's remuneration. They say if it is the employee director, when it is appointed by the board, they are getting the Form 16, TDS is deducted, PF is deducted. Then on that, no RCM is payable. But if director, same director is providing services in an independent capacity, and in that case, that amount will be considered as a part of their services and RCM will be payable. So the different judgments or advanced ruling authorities has created a lot of confusion. And then CBIC has to interfere. At least I remember 3 to 4 circulars which has been there on that issue. Of course, in earlier cases also, High Court has, and this issue was settled in service tax area. But in spite of that, the revenue officer don't see that without applied on mind of this advanced ruling authority, and the whole object gets defeated. Now the most important part across us, Colombia, Asia, I have the corporate office, I have the registered office, and I have some 20, that is 3 factories and 10 branches. Now those corporate office expenses and registered office expenses, they say they are providing services, and therefore the whole cost of corporate office or registered office, you have to raise the tax invoice and pay the tax on that. This was the advance ruling in the case of Colombia Asia Private. So whole question, whether integrated accounting system is anticipated, that is the whole $1 million question we have to ask. Because generally what happens is these expenses are apportioned or allocated only for the stock valuation purpose to arrive the cost of product and do the stock valuation. They do not pass the accounting entries in the books. In that case, the question comes is whether these registered office expenses and corporate office expenses have to calculate the total cost, and then based on the apportionment have to raise the tax invoice. This was the question which was asked, but unfortunately, Colombia says registered office and corporate office is the distinct entity. They are providing services to them. My counter allegation to that, or counter defense that, let us say registered office or a corporate office or a HO has got the different functions to perform, and they're performing those functions. They are taking ISD, they can take the ISD. You have the given ISD and you can distribute that ISD. And distribution is based on the turnover, not based on the services rendered and all. So the question comes is, if suppose I have in Maharashtra one manufacturing plant and corporate office also, I will absorb that cost in Maharashtra. That is, the Maharashtra will bear, and Maharashtra is in any way the service taxable person. They will take the input and they will do. Why you are asking them to raise the tax invoice on the total cost basis and then apply the valuation principle of Rule 28, I think that was the absurd. I have given the detailed article in my earlier this one also, that until you make a books accounting entry, because when you are maintaining the books, if book accounting entry is made and debiting to the plant control, that particular plant, and particular plant is also accepting it, then in that case only the question will come is whether this is my taxable service or not. In my opinion, if you are doing only a portion arriving for the costing purpose, for the purpose of a stock valuation, and it is not a part of books of accounts, then it will not be payable. But again, hold the industry on this. CBIC is expected to issue the detailed circular, but unfortunately they have not issued. So a lot of litigations I am expecting in the future this thing to happen. So number of cases we can talk on the classification. On the beverages, there are a number of issues. On the issues of classification, people have gone for the Advanced Ruling Authority. So whether this, considering this experience, the time taken by Advanced Ruling Authority, then appellate authority's decision, or that decision is binding on that assessee, considering this, and the revenue officer don't apply their mind, it is a mindset which they have not changed. In that case, whether we have to go for the Advanced Ruling Authority or not, that is the question which all, how to manage these conflicts. Now conflicts are there. How to manage it? So first we ourselves have to understand correct law, interpret the law for the decision making. If it is not, we do not have internal expertise, take a possible expert opinion. Even for the medicine, we go for 2 doctors and get the expert opinion, and then we decide. So take that expert opinion rather than going for the Advanced Ruling Authority, which is taking a lot of time. And again, the first ruling authorities is always in negative, and then second will come and all. Instead of that, your business should not stop. Go ahead and take your own decisions. And Advanced Ruling Authority, according to me, until the mindset is changed, until the judicious person is also there in the Advanced Ruling Authority at the first stage, it will not be of intention of the government, even though it was very good. It was brought from the Western countries, but in Western countries, example of Advanced Authorities is very good. They have the doubt, they go to the court, Advanced Ruling Authority, they call as a court also, and they take that because there is a judicious member also. But unfortunately, in our case, there is no judicious member. So as far as when the client asked me, I said, I never go for the advanced ruling until it is you insist. And that is the reason I said conflicts, you have to manage it by taking the appropriate decision. Now we'll take to the question answer session. And I think Manoj, you can ask the questions, we will reply. Over to Manoj. Hello, Manoj. Manoj.
Yeah. I'm just going through the question and answers.
Yeah.
There's one question about time limit in giving the orders. Section 98(6) obligates the authority to pronounce the ruling in 90 days. So Mr. Mishra wants to know how government is implementing, because he is seeing delay in giving advance ruling as per the timelines. So any thoughts on that, sir?
Very rightly, the provision was made that there should be a fast decision making process. But if you see number of advanced ruling authorities, even the 18 applications, 19 applications are still pending. They have not been heard also any time. So government has to take the effort, or according to me, this advanced ruling authority has to be said, if you cannot give a decision within the specified time limit, then automatic appeal also can be made against that, and it can be decided by appellate authority. Certain such strict provisions has to be made, then only it will be a intention will be successful, otherwise it is the operation successful and patient died.
Thank you, Naval sir. Another interesting question came from Mr. Pradhan. He is saying if an company has multiple GST registrations in different states, and in one state their GST number has got any advance ruling, whether that advance ruling would be applicable for that entire company for all their registrations, or it has to be only looked into for that registration number.
In GST, though we are required to take the different registrations, and different state government authorities and central government authorities for the advance ruling authority, so that decision will be binding only for that advance ruling authority which has given the jurisdiction. So under that jurisdiction, whatever the applicant, it is binding on the applicant, and applicant is one registration unit and not the entity. So it will not be binding on the total entity and all 20 registration, but it will be binding only on one registration.
So if it is no, there's a follow-up question. In what circumstances the cases would go to National Appellate Authority?
So far to my knowledge, there is not a single case has gone to the National Appellate Authority, though it was formed 3 months back. But before that, CBIC is issuing the notification, like yesterday it was issued for the director's remuneration. Earlier it was issued for the IIM. So such type of circulars, if CBIC intervenes better, that is better, otherwise delay will be very higher. So far,
Okay,
there is
thank you,
not a
sir.
single case reported by the national authority.
Thank you, sir, for clarifying on this. Another question came from Mr. Jain, wherein in your presentation you have covered about slum sale related advance ruling. So his question is, if GST is not applicable on slum sale, and if somebody has paid that, whether they can go for refund of that GST, whether the seller can go for refund of GST.
And you see, absolutely yes, because if you have paid the tax under the mistake of law, you can apply the refund under Rule 89(1), and Section 54 also permits that, subject to unjust enrichment clause. You have to prove that you have not passed on the duty incidence on somebody. Then yes, you can go.
Now there's another question came on director remuneration, because this is been an contentious issue since last, I would say, after Rajasthan AAR on directors remuneration. Mr. Venkat Rao wants to understand whether director remuneration needs to be paid by one GST number, or it has to be paid in case of independent director on those things, it has to be only paid from head office, or what? So which should be the place of supply for directors? That is the question.
You see, in the case of reverse charge position, though director, anything, whatever may be there, director is coming to the corporate office and it is a registered office as per the company's law. So wherever the jurisdiction, the registered office is located, that taxpayer, that where that registration number should pay the reverse charge on the independent directors. And now the question again will come on the cross charge, whether I should debit to all other clients and all. I have answered that question.
That's great, sir. Another question similar to one which we discussed earlier is, if I get an unfavorable decision in one state, can it be applicable for all? This is a reverse question, that if I have a favorable decision which I've got in one state, do I need to apply in all my GST registration state and again take for that, or
My advice will be, why आप बैल मुझे मार नहीं करने का, एडवांस जहाँ पॉजिटिव है वो रखो, और जब किसी ने डिस्प्यूट रेज किया वो टाइम बोलो कि दिस वाज द एडवांस रूलिंग डिसीजन इन माय हैंड and department has taken that stand. Though it may not be binding on other states, definitely it will help you in the litigations. But applying for so many states and again somebody may dispute that, then again you are allowed to go to the appellate authority or third member bench. But in appellate authority there is no provision of third member.
Yeah. Okay, another question, Manoj sir. Yeah, another question Manoj sir or Naval sir can apply. Mr. Mehra wants to understand whether we should go for provisional assessment or we should go for advance ruling. What would be the best choice for the taxpayer?
My advice will be provisional assessment, but for the provisional assessment, you have the thing on why you cannot determine. You cannot say I cannot determine my tax liability because of interpretation issue of the law. You can go for the assessment, provisional assessment, when you cannot determine certain discounts, you cannot determine certain valuation, but not the question of law. So if it is related to the question of law and interpretation of thereof, then provisional assessment is not the right way. Then advance ruling authority, again, I leave it to your fate with advance ruling authority, and when they will give and whether the same revenue mindset will work or otherwise. I'll leave it to your fate.
Yeah. Mr. Sachin Agrawal has a typical and specific question that you have said yesterday the CBIC has issued circular on director remuneration. So his question is, what would be the impact of that circular on Claycraft itself? Because Claycraft has got an advance ruling which was saying you have to pay, and now you have got a circular which says you don't have to pay, or only you have to pay in some circumstances and all those things. So what would be the impact on that assessee?
Absolutely very intelligent question, because advance ruling authority is the mechanism under the law, and CBIC, that circular has not been issued that section which is made that it is, then otherwise it will be binding on all, even the tax means by. That is the reason, if that, let us say one advance ruling authority, Rajasthan advance ruling authority has given the negative case for the Claycraft. In that case, Claycraft will have the issue whether this advance ruling authority is binding on me or CBIC circular is binding on me. CBIC circular is not binding on him, but the advance ruling authority is binding on him. So I will advise them to go for the appeal immediately. If time period is over, then go to the High Court and knock the door that there is a conflict in the minds of government and advance ruling authority. So give me the justice. I think that is the right way.
That's good, sir. It's always better, as they have got advance ruling, they have one more step to go wherein they can go to appellate and then present this circular and they can get an order in their favor. Another question came again on conflicting advance rulings. Now, Mr. Hemant Shah wants to understand if there are conflicting AR in suppose 2 states, and I am residing in a state where it is adverse to the taxpayer. However, the other state has given favorable to me. So which one I should see? So this is particularly on the jurisdiction of applicability of those AR and all those questions, which naturally people have in mind, because as Manoj sir has said that AR is applicable for that taxpayer only and not for others, but still people have these questions. So what is your thought on this?
I think, you see, I will advise that wherever you have got a negative, immediately file the appellate authority and rely on the decision of another advance ruling authority. That is the right way of doing it.
Should I answer?
Because one thing is there, that is the, let us say A state, Maharashtra has given negative and West Bengal has given positive. Then Maharashtra will have the binding effect. So it's better Maharashtra should apply the appeal, go for the appeal.
Any thoughts on further thoughts to add? Mr. Bede, you want to add something on
Hello.
this?
Hello.
Yeah, I think we'll move to next question.
State is giving a favorable decision or favorable order, naturally it is applicable. It is applicable in that state where. Yes, Manoj. Hello.
Yeah,
Is
there's
my
next
voice
question.
audible? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible. I am going
Manoj,
to
my
next
voice
question.
is audible? Yes.
Yes, sir. We are moving to next question.
Okay.
Mr. Vivek Pawar wants to understand.
Okay.
They have sold a defunct unit comprising leasehold land and building. Whether GST applies in such case, and whether surrendering leasehold rights of land would be treated as declared service. So that's a question. Again, going back to slum sale kind of transaction, wherein you are selling along entire property along with the existing structure, land and building and everything.
Well, that is the right way of doing it, rather than giving the exclusive right or right and all and going in the declared services. Let that defunct unit sale, make a slum sale of that, this one as a going concern, or do amalgamation of that, or do merger of that, whatever is the convenient. It will depend on the fact to case to case and this, but it is always better to go on the slum sale method or business transfer, which is neither the goods nor the services, so no supply.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now we'll take on last question for the day because we have already overshot the time.
But if you have,
There are
just
still.
Manoj, you can tell means this one, that we will, whatever the questions are remaining or any questions, our email IDs are given, or you can send to the ASSOCHAM, we will forward that, they will forward, or you can give it to our IDs which has been given in the presentation.
Yeah.
So that we will send
Yeah.
the presentation to each member also, and we can reply any other queries.
Correct.
Yeah.
So before that, I would like to take the last question, sir. There's a question that is tax payable on bonus paid to employee director or managing director? That's a question. Again, on the director remuneration, there are a lot of different payments. So if the bonus is paid to an employee director, that's the question.
Anything which is accounted in Form 16. Suppose bonus is included in the part of a Form 16 and income tax has been paid, and it has been paid in terms of those perquisite, that is the section of salary, then no tax has to be paid on that, no reverse charge is applicable.
Okay, that's great. So what we are saying is what circular has rightly clarified, wherever that is the any amount which is paid to director is considered as a part of salary, there would be no RCM on that. And something which is not considered as part of salary, you will have to pay reverse charge on it. So as we have tried to answer as many questions as we can during this session, there may be some further questions in your mind pertaining to advance ruling or how to apply for it, how to take best use of what advance ruling you have got. So you can reach out to us. Our mail IDs are there. Now I think it is over to Ankit to take it forward. Yes, Mr. Ankit. Mr. Ankit, can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
So thank you, Manoj. And so this brings us to the end of this webinar. And on behalf of ASSOCHAM, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to all the attendees for sparing their precious time and joining us this well-timed and informative webinar. I would also like to thank Mr. Ashok Naval and Mr. Manoj Bheti for sharing their expertise and invaluable knowledge with all our attendees. My special thanks to Mr. Manoj Malpani for helping us in replying to the queries of the attendees. Here, I would also like to inform to all the attendees that we are having another webinar on input tax credit and departmental audit under GST on 15th of June. The link of which will be shared with you by today evening or early morning tomorrow. And I thank you all once again for joining us this morning and wish you all a nice time ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anup, you can close.
Hello.
Yeah.
The
Thank
questions
you.
will be shared with you. If you have received the questions,
Yes,
that
thank
will
you.
be shared with you.
Thank you.